Simon & Schuster Audio presents At Last, a novel by Marisa Silver, read by Mia Barron. Chapter 1. Arrangements. Omaha, Nebraska, 1971. Helene supposed Ruth had been some sort of hippie, or maybe it all had something to do with women's liberation. She couldn't think of how it might relate to Vietnam, but she was sure that Ruth had found some way to make the connection. Something about imperialism or capitalism. The way she had it, you couldn't buy a pair of shoes without having to acknowledge imperialism or capitalism or... what was that other thing she was always going on about? Advertising. As if a person had no mind of her own when, in fact, Helene had bought the blue leather pumps with the small gold buckles she was wearing right now because she liked navy blue, and because the buckle made things a little more formal, and because, in her opinion, a mature but slightly festive pump was appropriate for the wedding of Ruth, this tall and rashly opinionated girl, to Tom, Helene's otherwise responsible son. Whatever the girl's reasoning was, nothing about this wedding was appropriate. For one thing, it was taking place in a public park in the middle of winter. All right, she conceded. It was the end of March, but all it took was one look outside the car window where sooty patches of snow clung to the grassy verge to know that the lamb had not replaced the lion in Omaha, Nebraska, a city Helene had never been to before, and from the grim looks of it, one she would never need to visit again. For another, Ruth and Tom were not going to be married by a rabbi, but by a judge who was, according to Tom, somebody one of Ruth's sisters had heard about. She wanted to speak of these things now, to commiserate about the weather and the judge and everything else about this unconventional wedding. But she barely knew Ruth's mother, who was driving, tapping her fingers impatiently on the wheel to let Helene know she'd rather be doing anything else than taking her on this errand. Evelyn Turner, which was certainly not an authentic name, Helene thought. Of course, there had been a time, years ago, when she hadn't liked the idea of being saddled with the name Simonauer for the rest of her life. But it had become something to be proud of, hadn't it? A declaration, especially after the war. At any rate, she'd met this Evelyn Turner only hours earlier, and now she was allowing herself to be driven, a little recklessly, she thought, as the woman turned left.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?